All right, go.
Welcome, dear participants, to the West African Teaching Virtual Conference, September 2021. So my name is Bello Tara Ali, and I'm going to talk to you about using smartphone to enhance speaking skills. And I am from Niger. Sorry, not Nigeria, but Niger. Niger is a Francophone country in West Africa. Thank you. Slide. So today, I would talk to you about, first of all, the challenges of teaching speaking skills in the Nigerian context. The second point of my session plan will be the benefit of using smartphone to enhance student communication skills. The third point, I will share with you some activities with smartphone that I used to conduct in my classrooms to help my students develop their speaking skills. And the last point will be some reflection questions for you, dear participant, so that we can have using smartphone we can have ways, to be able to use a smartphone to help our students develop their speaking skills in our classrooms. Slide. Good. So at the end of this presentation, I would like you, dear participant, to know activities with smartphone to enhance students' speaking skills in English. At the same time, I would like you to start introducing speaking activity to develop fluency with the help of smartphone. Next slide. Good. So I had this idea while I participate to the TESOL 2020 convention. So I draw the idea from Lynn Zammers, especially her presentation about gallery work and talk in large classes at the TESOL 2020 Convention and Language Expo. So she was trying to show some activities, okay, that can help students to talk, especially in large classes. So I got the idea. I say, why not to start? Because we here in Niger, as a Francophone country, we need to develop speaking skills to help our students develop speaking skills. So I say, why not to use a smartphone to help our students be fluent, in the language. So I got the idea from really when I watch exactly, I participate to Lim Zimmer's gallery work and talk large classes, presentation. So slide. Good. So let's talk about the challenges of teaching speaking skills in the Nigerian context. First of all, the first challenge is about the culture that we inherited from French language learning strategies. So here, in our schools, students generally they're afraid of speaking. Why do they afraid of speaking? Because the school establish some culture, like when you're speaking the local languages in school, they will be given to you a kind of bones, tag on your neck. So you don't want that bone, long bone, to be tagged on your neck. That's the reason why you don't even you cannot speak even the French language, because when you speak the local language, they will give you that bone. But if you don't speak, then there is no way for you to get that bone. So we had that culture of avoiding the bones, and then it doesn't allow us to have the opportunity to speak. So then we don't have these opportunities to speak. Then another problem is students, they're afraid of speaking because when they make mistakes, their colleague, they laugh at them. And nobody don't want to be laughed at. And that's the reason why they don't want to speak foreign language. It can be French, it can be English, it can be Spanish or whatever. So that really was a problem to many of Nigerian students, especially the fact that they don't want to make mistakes because they laugh at them. So that's the reason why they don't want to speak foreign language. And this is the same for English language. Because when you speak the language, you make mistake, people laugh at you, then this will not allow you to continue speak the language. So this is a problem for speaking English language in this francophone country. We have also lack of adequate learning environment. Here in our country, it's a francophone country. At home, some students, they speak French or the local languages. At work, they speak French language in the administration. So there is no any environment where students can practice the language apart from the classroom. So we didn't have chances to develop or to have a lot of environment, a lot of English clubs where students can go and meet their colleagues to speak the language. We do have some, but it's not sufficient. So this is also another problem. Everywhere you go, it's about French. There is no English. The club, we don't have many. Not all schools do have club. And even though they have club, the way the club were functioning is a problem for many students to join this club. And this is a problem. We have also the government policies. In our country, the government is using the same book for 2090, English for the Sahel. So we are using the same books, English for the Sahel, for let's say 30 years, which is designed, of course, to teach students, writing skills and reading skills, listening skills, and speaking skills. But unfortunately, the government didn't give, materials for schools to apply, especially the listening and the speaking skills. So teachers and the school administration, they got a lot of problems to respond to the government objective, which was to help students be fluent in English. They spend their time planning, teaching, writing skills, and reading skills. That's the reason why most of our students here in Niger, they can read, they are good at reading, and they are also good at writing. But unfortunately, listening and speaking became the major problems. So there is another fact, which is the students' needs. The students, they all see around themselves French. They cannot see the benefits of English language. So sometimes it's hard for them to start learning at their age because the English language is introduced in college. So that's a problem for students to start learning a new language from the beginning. So some students, they will just say, okay, I don't need English. I have French. And even if I succeeded my degree, I will go to the government and use just French language. Few students know today the importance of English language in Francophone country like Niger. And some students, they will say, okay, even though I learn the language, where I can work, the audience, I mean, to which I can address or people with whom I'm going to work, they will be only speaking French language and or local languages. So that's the reason why sometimes they don't find it important for them to learn the English language. Slide, please. Slide. Good. Now let's talk about the benefits of using smartphone to improve our student speaking skills. So Godwin says smartphone and tablet have a variety of built-in functions that support communication and multimedia use. They offer an efficient way for students to work with language, whether written and spoken. So this is exactly where we find out the necessity to use a smartphone to develop student speaking skills, because smartphones have many applications, many functions that we can benefit from these functions to help our students develop their speaking skills. Slide. So now, the first benefit that we can notice here is the availability of smartphone and the accessibility of the smartphone. The smartphones are available at market. You can find it everywhere, even in our bushes. And what is important here is that many students have access to these smartphones and they use it. So, and parents, they also buy smartphone to their children. And even though they cannot buy or have the student have their own smartphone, at least in the family, one person might have smartphone in that family. And that student used to play games. So instead of playing games, it is important to start teaching or showing students some of the ways they can use it to speak English, to train themselves in speaking English. One of the ways is that smartphones have access to multiple speaking resources. So we can guide students to these resources instead of letting them continue playing again and again with some, games which cannot help them, especially in the educational domain. So this is an opportunity to motivate students, because when they have a smartphone, they can use their smartphone and we show them certain activities that they can do with smartphone, especially to develop their listening skill. They will enjoy it. They will be motivated. One of them is social media. All students go to social media. So why not to create conditions to have a student guide them on social media to go to some pages that they can develop they can develop their listening and speaking skill, especially speaking skill, because this is a challenge. So we have to do this with consistency. We have to repeat again and again to students to show them these, ideas, to show them these applications, to show them these, so that it can help them, with consistency using these applications. And the student will be autonomous sometime at a certain time. they will be developing their own learning skills. Slide, please. Now, let's go to some of the activities that I use in my classroom to help my students enhance their communication skills. In my classes, I use listening audio, social media, role play recording video, and podcast. So I will define one by one these, 4 points. Slide, please. Good. Now, the first point is listening audio and speak. Here, this activity, I would have a smartphone, my smartphone, and a speaker or some speakers. I will have a listening audio that I play with my smartphone, and I share it with Bluetooth to the speaker. And I play the audio. The students, they listen to the audio, and we do some pronunciation activities, vocabulary activities, so that they can understand exactly, the audio. And then sometimes we engage a kind of discussion. The students, sometimes they make mistake with the pronunciation, and I help them, or I replay the audio so that they can hear very well the pronunciation. And sometimes they imitate the audio. I ask them to imitate the audio. This will help them, especially listening to a native speaker, and be able to communicate, to communicate and pronounce word as a native speaker. This will help them a lot in their learning, especially about speaking. Slide, please. The second activity that sometimes I used to have with my students is on social media. Sometimes I use WhatsApp, sometimes I use Facebook, but generally I use WhatsApp. So we had some group, and I told them on this group, the group is designed only for speaking. You can send audio, you can speak to the group in English. Sometimes I just go on Google to find some pictures, and then, or I write the pictures, I give the name, I pronounce the word correctly, and then I send them to the WhatsApp group. So students, they can listen to the pronunciation of the word, they can see the picture. At the same time, I ask them to reply, to the activities, and they pronounce the word correctly. If they make mistake, I help them. And sometimes I ask them to go to YouTube to watch some video. Then after the video, we just have a discussion in class. For example, I can ask them, okay, today, when you go home, I give the title for the video on YouTube, and then I ask them to post it. Or sometimes I just ask them to make their own video, okay, describing something and post it on our WhatsApp group. And then when we came back in class, we had a discussion, and then correction, discussion, pronunciation, and so on and so on. So they like it and they learn. Slide. Now, the third activity is role play. This activity, video recording and discussion, this is a very amazing activity that my students like a lot. So first of all, I had a dialogue. I write the dialogue on the board. I asked the student to read it. And then they read it. When I ask them to read it, when they do the reading, and then I say, okay, now let's role play. Okay, sometimes I had the video and play the video to students. So now the student, they came to role play the video, to be the characters, and we try to do the same dialogue. So we do a lot of, video, and then I had the video play on my smart computer. Students, they look at themselves to see how they're speaking, how they're pronouncing words, and they correct themselves. We spend time doing this, and they like it. So we discussed a lot about, you know, uh, about their behavior, the pronunciation of the word, the way they express, related to the dialogue, and so on and so on. It is funny, and they like it, and they're learning. So when we come to real life, they practice it. Okay, slide please. Now, another activity is podcast. Here, really, I do it with my high, English students. So I just ask them to go to the British Council for series, and then they download, the series. They look at the text, they play the audio, they listen to the audio at the same. The audio is reading the text, and they try to practice. And once we came in class, I asked them to read us. They hear it in the audio, and they try to read like that. They imitate the audio, and then we had some discussion about the content of the podcast, especially the series. So here there is reading, there is listening, there is imitation, and there is speaking, especially when it comes to the discussion. These are things that help really my students, a lot of my students, to develop their speaking skills, to have some practice, some ways to communicate, even in front of people. They like it and they learn it. Slide, please. So now we came to some of our reflection questions. These questions are designed to get some improvements to things that you have I discussed about. So, and it's also an opportunity to know exactly how you are using smartphone in your classroom. So the first one is, how often do you use a smartphone in your classroom? So you can answer this question in the chat box. The second question is, what other activities do you do with smartphone to enhance student ability to speak? So the third question, what are the other benefits for students to use a smartphone to enhance fluency in English? The fourth one, how can we control our student use of smartphone in our classroom environment? So this question is very, very important for teachers. And another question is, how can we get our students develop their own learning environment using smartphone? This is very important. We adults, we are using smartphone, we are benefiting from smartphone, but how can we have our students to be independent in using smartphone to develop their learning environment? Slide. Now, let's remember uh, that as a teacher, you can use smartphone to conduct activity in your classroom to enhance student communication skills. Even though many many schools avoided that, it is beneficial. It's really beneficial. So teachers, you can also do activities with students can also do activities with their smartphone on social media, on podcast application. You can use it to role play, especially have video recording to motivate the student, and also some listening audios. You can make some, you can play and also be able to make some listening audio to your student. All these can help a student develop, be confident while speaking or developing their speaking skills. Slide. So thank you very much, dear participant. Here are the references that I use to conduct this work. Thank you very much.